Hi, I'm OBG. I often get into debates on Facebook, much more than in real life. And I'm not claiming to be no tough guy, but I'm 6 foot tall and I get angry sometimes. So in person, people tend to modify their behaviour. They don't just jump on you with rubbish, or don't just walk up to you in the middle of a conversation and tell you that you're totally wrong without, putting forward any argument. And I talk about this recently on my live shows, and I mentioned some philosophers along the way also. So because I like grabbing myself live, I was just going to grab a show regarding moral objectivism, and I thought to myself, why not do it live? And then that way you can see me for all my warts and all, and also you can know or get to know that I know my subject. Hello, Marta. Always pleased to see you. Stop it, you're giving the game away. You know you love her. So I'm going to get into this. I'm going to lose you for a moment if anyone's watching as I concentrate and pull out all that information from inside my head. So I'm going to start off with a filler. And the reason I do this, if you're new to the show, is that I can just cut out that section as is and throw it onto YouTube without me having to do any editing. So stick with me. Hi, I'm the OBG. I often hear people say, well, that's my opinion midway through a debate. So I decided to blow the old philosophical trumpet. And it really is an area where I know my onions. There, I said it. And I find that many people argue using the basics of many fleshed out philosophical arguments. However, they're often lost after making the basic well-known statements. However, I'm not. And I bring this up because people get caught up in the argument as to who is right and wrong. And I want to express why simply choosing right and wrong isn't just a matter of knowing. After all, how could we know and what do we know? Well, it depends on many variables. And I noted that we base many of our strong-held opinions as those that come from the imperialist stance and those that we want to push our views on to everybody else, simply because it seems that we are correct for holding a common view, especially as those people living and being educated under the rule of those that hold the monopoly. So I'll have a quick chat about moral relativism and moral objectivism. So first of all, moral relativism. This is a view that what is morally right or wrong depends on what someone thinks, to which they claim that opinions vary substantially about right and wrong is usually added. And this is usually broken down into two categories, subjectivism and conventionalism. And I'll explain the two here. So first of all, subjectivism is what is morally right or wrong for you, and it depends on what you think is wrong, and it's relative to the individual. And the moral facts may alter from person to person. Then there's conventionalism, and conventionalism is what is morally right or wrong, and it depends on what the society that we are dealing with thinks. And that is to say that morality depends on the conventions of the society that we're concerned with, and the moral facts may actually alter from society to society. So moral relativism has become an increasingly popular view in the later part of the 20th century, and this could be due to the decline of religion, because religion seems to offer the possibility that morality was independent of us. And as we've slowly moved away from religion towards science, there seems to have come a certain amount of doubt about the possibility of objective reality. And I spoke about Dostoevsky 2 shows ago, and he actually wrote that if God doesn't exist, everything is permissible, which kind of sounds cool, but does it make sense to say that if there isn't a God, then there is no morality? And there are proofs against this, but you can find those out of a little research if you are interested. And this decline could also be down to us observing simple things such as cultural diversity and accepting that many cultures engage in practices very different from ours, enforcing the idea that no single objective reality exists and that our moral compass varies with culture. And is this a good argument for moral relativism? Not really. It just demonstrates that there are no facts about morality. And so this leads to moral objectivism. And this is a view that what is right or wrong doesn't depend on what any of us actually thinks. And that is a view that the moral facts are like physical facts in that they are not dependent on what anybody says or thinks. And objectivist theories, they tend to come in two flavours. And these are either duty-based or consequence-based. So the duty-based theory, or what do they call that? Deontological theories. They claim that what determines whether an act is morally right or wrong is the kind of act that it is. And I spoke about Immanuel Kant recently and said that I'll be covering him along with many other philosophers in future shows dedicated to philosophy. Anyway, he believed that we should judge things based on the categorical imperative and act only according to the rule, whereby you can at the same time will it to become a universal law. And this was in opposition to what he called the hypothetical imperative, which we would apply to someone who wishes to attain certain ends, for example, the need to drink water to satisfy their thirst. And the categorical imperative, on the other hand, denotes an absolute unconditional requirement, and that must be obeyed by all and in all circumstances, and it is justified as an end in itself. So consequence-based or consequentialist theories, also known as teleological theories, they claim that what determines whether an act is right or wrong is its consequences. And I also spoke about utilitarianism, which is best known, or the best known sort of consequentialism. And I mentioned John Stuart Mill, and he's best known for this. Although I did mention Bentham previously, but essentially utilitarianism tells us that in any situation, the right thing to do is whatever is likely to produce the most happiness overall, whatever it serves the majority the best. And there is a thought experiment that illustrates this to many. So I'll just quickly describe that. And that says that if you had a train hurtling down a track and the track branched off into two, up ahead, and on one side of the track was a child, on the other side was a group of 20 adults, and you have the power to pull a lever to guide the train to the child or the adult, which way should you steer the train? Okay, and on that conundrum, I say thanks for listening. I am the OBG.
OBG.